sector. I will be your moderator this morning for our meeting here. And as you see on your screen, we will be recording this webinar for future purposes. The webinar comes about through a partnership with Jumuiya's Kaunti's Pwani, MDF Training and Consultancy, and BAOSSENCE. Now, if you're in the room, you have an interest in sustainable textile or sustainable fashion, and that's why we're here. Now, quick rule of the game as you join into our meeting, kindly mute yourself. Please indicate your organization and your name. So once you hover around your name on the aspects on where it shows your name, you can rename yourself and indicate the organization that you're coming from. Our webinar this morning will be in 3 parts. We'll have the introduction session, we then go into the content, and then thereafter we'll have a bit of an inspiration session. And during those moments, we will also have a question and answer. But before we start off, I ask that we do a quick exercise. So if you do have your phone, I will ask that we run a quick Mentimeter. I'm with my colleague who would be managing the chat box, and her name is Laura, and she will be managing the chat box, and she'll also help me with the technical aspects in the background. So if you do take your phone, I'm going to share, or even on your machine, if you're on your machine, I'll run a quick Mentimeter just to know who's in the room in 2 minutes. Laura, if you could help me. All right, great. So if you're on your machine, please go to www.menti.com and then use the code that you see on your screen. All right, Laura will be able to tell me how many people are in the room. So if you do have your phone, it might be even easier. So www.menti.com and then use the code up there. All right, Laura, are you able to tell how many people are in the room so far? All right. How many do we have? 3. All right, if you're there, please give me a thumbs up on screen. All right, I can see 9 people in the room. Do give me a thumbs up. 11. We're about 29 in the Zoom meeting, so I'm expecting at least most of you. Okay, when we get to 15, then I will proceed, as I do know some of us could be multitasking. Where do I see the code? Indeed, on your screen right now, as I'm sharing, is 8867. It's shared on your screen. All right, great. I have 15 people as, right? And my next question, please run it for me, Laura. All right. Oops, the previous one. All right. My question is, who is in the room? So please give me your name and your organization, or actually your organization, since we have some of your names already on the participant list. So do enter what organization you're representing. Sustainable Fashion, Ria, Anna Jelpa, thank you. Leila Bare, very nice. Okay, great. Bonkohab, I like it. Malaika, great. More University, Imani Collectives, thank you. Bagari from Peperuka, okay, great. I like that you went directly to the chat. Indeed, if you're not able to access the Menti, do go onto the chat. Thank you. Raquel for Visions Fashion, Kenyatta University, University of Nairobi. I'm an alumni of University of Nairobi. Of course, I'll be biased. Grace Green, Odi War, great transformation. Thank you for each one of you for indicating. This is just a quick way of getting to know who's here. My next question, which I'll ask Laura to run, and that's the next slide. Igeo Textiles. If I don't say it properly, please forgive me. Sharifa from, okay. And our next question is, what is your understanding of regenerative fiber? If you don't have access to Menti, do write it on our chat box. Please note, we're recording this webinar for future purposes. Pardon? Great. Okay, please do indicate what is your understanding of regenerative fiber. Once you start typing in your answers, I will be able to see it on the screen. Laura, I will also ask, please admit those in need to be admitted. Okay, great. I think we're still answering the previous question I do see on our chat. So do indicate what is your understanding of regenerative fiber. Laura, is there a way that we can have the screen be able to be visible more? So the question is, what is your understanding of regenerative? It's showing half, but I hope you do get the question. Those on the Mentimeter are only 6 as of now, no, 15. Artificial fiber, thank you, Dennis. All right, that's your understanding. All right. Okay, I don't seem to have answers on the Menti. Well, this is a good preamble for us to get to know about the regenerative textile. Oh, great, okay. I do see now the artificial fiber generated from plant cellulose. All right, fiber that is produced from regenerated materials rather than natural or synthetic fiber. Sustainable 100 organic biofiber. All right, fiber which decomposes. Okay, great responses. I have 10 answers and we're about 36 in the room. So the rest, do feel free to give in your comments. Okay, great. I will now close off this page and ask Laura to stop sharing as we go into our webinar. That was a quick preamble and to introduce you into our regenerative fiber webinar this morning on theory and context. And our idea is to get to engage and to learn. And after this, follow up with a conversation around the regenerative fiber. As I did indicate, my name is Eva Kemani, and I work at MDF Training Consultancy, and I'm joined by our partners, Jumuiya's Kaunti Pwani, who's hosting us this morning, and BAOSSENCE. Now, without BAOSSENCE, my apologies, Lisa, BAOSSENCE. Without further ado, we'll get into the meat of our webinar, and our first speaker this morning will be speaking in regards to the policy aspects around regenerative textile and putting into the context, especially from a Mombasa, from a coastal perspective, is our CEO for Jumuiya's Kaunti Pwani, that is Emmanuel Nzai. He's also the advisor for the Go Blue project, and he will give a bit of more information about that. But as indicated, I will ask that you please mute your microphones, and as we have Nzai speak, if there are any questions, do post them on the chat box and we'll manage that. Over to you, Nzai.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here, and welcome to Jumuiya Kaunti Pwani. That's how it's pronounced, Jumuiya Kaunti Pwani. Jumuiya being a commonwealth altogether, which brings together the 6 coastal counties: Mombasa, Kwale, Kilifi, Tana River, Lamu, and Taita Taveta. Slides, please. I have a few minutes to this, and I just want to share my view of this, and I really want to appreciate Eva Kimani, our partner, and BAOSSENCE, which is led by Lisa Kibutu, for coming up with this idea of regenerative textile and the new thinking about regeneration. I honestly, probably like many, did not know much of these words. I was using them differently. But when it came into conversations about how we can be very innovative about regeneration and transformation, that got my interest. I'm sure you can probably see the screen. I want to go through very, very quickly, probably half a minute for each one. Our rallying call for the regional economic bloc of the 6 coastal counties is simply changing the story. And changing the story from what to what will be the question. And it's really changing it from the problems that we have defined, the wicked problems that we have here in our region, and they have been defined in many ways. We host, I think, the most of the poorest community. For a long time, this has been in Ganze. So it's a vicious circle of the poverty, this marginalization, politics, corruption that we have, which is a Kenyan story, but nevertheless, for the sake of problem definition, before you get into solutions, that's what we have. Our mandates are 4. It's coordinating the regional economic development of the 6 counties, anchored on the mandates, the devolved mandates of the county governments, as we have it in the Kenya Constitution. So we get to facilitate the policies that they have, which is the sector plans, the county development plans. We promote the regional assets in terms of investment and tourism. And lastly, it's investment themselves through public-private partnerships. Our adopted model is the triple helix, which becomes very, very interesting, bringing academia, government, and industry. So the economic bloc was formed by the 6 coastal counties and deliberately brought in the 3 local universities, Taita Taveta University, Pwani University, and Technical University of Mombasa, all with different capabilities and tapping on them in terms of research, academia, and development. I wanted to bring you to this in terms of where we are right now. We are very guided that our idea is for us to bring about shared prosperity, employment, and wealth. For us to do that, we have 10 pillars, the Jumuiya 10, and we have repurposed to make sure that they are all regenerative compliant so that the transformation that we're seeking here will be regenerative transformation. And we have been able to put in the priorities where agribusiness, food and nutrition security, with the vast land that we have, with the good weather, with the soils that we have available and suitable land specific for this textile that we have been talking about. Cotton has been growing in this place. There is castor which grows in this place. There is all what you need for you to have regenerative textile is right here. But then we have the ports. We have the Lamu port, we have the Mombasa port, which is trade and industries. We can talk about special economic zones, which create employment. We can talk about the blue economy and all its value chains, the natural resources and environment rich that we have. And across all the 10 pillars, essentially now the conversation has been, how do we get to repurpose to make sure that each policy, each project that we are working on is regenerative. And we say through that, we must have innovation. Innovation is really the key and the beam around this, where it creates employment, but it totally guides much of this conversation and even the policy framework. So across the board, what we have here, I think it's a ready place in terms of the county governments, with their innovative thinking around the institutional framework of a regional economic bloc, which lifts out the boundaries, and we get to think about an economic cluster with its ecosystem, with much of the shared resources, the like of rivers, lakes, and the ocean being the biggest one, but also land in terms of same climate zones, which we have for us to be able to guide this region as one economic bloc, as one ecosystem, as one economic cluster for the creation of employment, wealth, and shared prosperity for its people. So I want to leave it there and welcome you all. You can reach to get more details from the Jumuiya.org, Jumuiya with a Y, not an A, .org, where you can get much of these details. So thank you so much. Over to you, Eva.
All right, thank you very much, Zai, for your presentation around the policy aspect on what actually Jumuiya as a county, the Pwani, is doing and how this aligns to the regenerative agenda. I do see different opportunities, and the idea is that even for you who's in the audience, that you get to see where you can plug in from that perspective. Now, as I did say at the beginning of this webinar, is that the idea of this webinar is that you get to learn, but also share knowledge and also link with other partners and organizations. And at the end, we'll then have a call to action on what's next. We will segue right into the theory perspective, and we have Professor Josephat Igadwa, who is a principal investigator of an interesting project by UNEP, and which is called Intex. He works at the Moi University, but he'll highlight on what exactly it is that they're doing around regenerative textile. He'll provide us with a theory from an academic perspective, but then also tie it in with the ongoing project. So I will ask Emmanuel to stop sharing his screen so that then we are able to have Professor Igadwa do that. Sten, will you please assist? All right, 1 minute.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you, Laura. All right, Professor, you're ready?
Yeah, good morning,
Please
everyone.
Please do unmute your microphone. All right. Oops.
Yes, I have already unmuted, and I'm trying
All right, just
to
1
share.
minute, Professor. Okay, please speak so then it's fine.
Hello.
All right.
Hello,
Great.
good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning again. I don't know whether I'm ready to start. Trying to.
Yes, you are. Please
Okay.
go ahead.
I think that's a better position because of the lighting effect. I am sharing. I don't know whether you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Can you see?
Yes,
Okay,
we can.
thank you very much. To save time, my name is Josephat Igado Mwasiagi. Very, very happy to be here. Just to cut it short, somehow I have a lot of affiliation. Affiliation to the Jumuiya ya Pwani, specifically Taita Taveta district, but that will be a story for another day. Okay. Currently, I work with Moi University, and within 5 minutes, I want to share something about regenerative fibers, which I want to term as regenerative textiles. Now, these come in different formats. From the technical point of view, we'll say substrate. We have fibers, we have materials, and we have composite. So for fibers, from the theoretical point of view, we have material like organic cotton. I will repeat organic cotton, which is different from BT cotton. Organic cotton will use less than 90% of the resources that will be used by other material. Then we have material like sisal, which is common in Taita Taveta, all the way up to Malindi, Mombasa. We have silk, we have banana fiber, we have mushroom fiber. That is also a regenerative fiber. Then, looking at regenerative textiles, we also have dyes, and Moi University specifically is very good at using of natural dyes. We've done several projects on natural dyes, both at national and international level. We've also worked with the natural moderns. So really trying to have a regenerative material. Then we've also worked with something called effluent treatment, because we feel that the current systems that we have may not just disappear into the thin air. So we're trying to see whether there are possibilities of trying to make them more regenerative by trying to remove from them some of the toxics, some of the toxic chemicals or some of the chemicals that make them to be non-regenerative. We also working on manufacturing systems, which entails looking at waste recycle, waste reuse, so on and so forth. Because of time, I'm just throwing a few points here and there. I want to try to tie this with one of the projects that we are doing, which is the INTEX project. INTEX is innovative business practices and economic models in the textile value chain. Now, this is being done in collaboration with UNEP, which is the implementing partner. The main sponsor is EU, but we also have co-sponsors like UK, ITC, and CETA. So in this project, the main thing that I want to bring out is that we are looking into accompanying textile businesses to transform their approach and business models in order to increase sustainability and circularity in the textile value chain. I've picked this one out because this is where we come into the regenerative material. For your information, UNEP feels that we are overusing what we have. For example, one t-shirt may use over 2,700 liters of water by the time you are wearing it. That is even before you wash it. That water can be used by about one person for 2 years for drinking. So you can see why this issue of sustainable and circularity is coming in. And I'm glad that we are able to sit here today and look into regenerative material, which are going to reduce some of these negative footprints. With that, I want to also tie in something small that I thought would be important based on the discussions I've had with Lisa and this is about standards. Now, standards come in different ways, and one of them that we have national standards, which are, for example, KEBS, TBS, that is for Tanzania, UNBS for Uganda. And then we have regional standards, for example, EAC, this is the East African Community. We have SADC and we have ECOWAS, that is for Africa. We have continental standards, for example, ARSO, which stands for African Standard Organization. And then we have the global standard, which is ISO. I have worked and I'm still working as a member of several technical committees. I've chaired some, especially in textile, at the national standards, that is at KEBS. I've also participated in so many standards at EAC. Currently, I'm the chairperson of the Technical Committee on Textiles at ARSO. I've just begun my term, which was in December last year, and I'll serve for 3 years. Allow me to mention that I've just come from Uganda, whereby the issue of eco-label, which is looking into ensuring that we come up with standards that are taking care of the ecology or the environment are taken care of. So I want to stop there and say that the issue of regenerative material is very much at the heart of what we do at Moi University. We want to look into systems that are going to ensure that we do not destroy Mother Earth, but rather we use material in a manner that reinforces or enables us to be able to have an environment that we are proud of and an environment that will not choke us. For example, if we are not careful with what we do, the temperatures are going to rise, and rise in temperature is something that I may not be able to let's say discuss now, but we are all aware may lead to a lot of negative impacts. I will stop here and pass the meeting back to Lisa. And if we have questions, I can answer. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Professor. And just to highlight that the professor has given the context from a theory perspective and even talked about what is possible from possible fibers that we can find in Kenya. Now, the idea is that from this conversation, that we actually, as the global conversation is also going on around sustainability and reducing our carbon footprint in the planet, what is it that we can do from a textile or fashion perspective, which is why we are all here. Now, to bring in from the aspect of fine art and design, how do we design these fabrics? And we've been told, well, you can make from cotton, a specific kind of cotton, you can do even mushroom. How can we do that? I will ask Dr. Adonija, who's from the Kenyatta University Department of Fine Art, to then give us a quick highlight around this for 5 minutes. As I indicated, we are going to be running a very tight ship during this webinar. So, Dr. if you're here, do speak up, and I can.
Yes, you can hear me.
All right. Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eva and Lisa and all the organizers of this webinar. Yes, I have something to share. I think I'll go directly from a designer's perspective. So I won't touch on, I touched on a few areas of regenerative fiber. So I'll just and skip quite a number of slides. So if you allow me, I'll start off with this. I know I just have a few minutes and go directly to, I wanted to, I hope you can see, can you see what I'm sharing?
Yes, we can, Dr.
Yes. I was just going to emphasize that within the SDGs, that is the UN SDGs, 12 actually emphasizes or highlights that it is important to understand the environmental impacts of products and services in the product life cycles, as well as how they are affected during the lifestyles. At the same time, we see the connection with design here, where we are seeing that innovation and design solutions can both enable and inspire individuals to lead more sustainable lifestyles, reducing impacts and improving well-being. One of what I call the two common blames, there are two common blames which we keep on coming across when we read about textiles. That one is the second largest pollutant of clean water. A number of writers have stated that agriculture is first, but textile is there also in not doing well to the environment. And also the second blame we always hear about is that one of exploitation of textile workers. So I just wanted to highlight those two. And they are generally in textiles, in this area of textiles, there are many other SDGs that actually apply to textiles. But I wanted to zero in on number 12. But there are many others, quite a number, about 7 or 8 of them. I won't spend so much time on this, but this is just showing the issue about dumping, or how much textiles abroad and being dumped. I'm using the term dumped because quite a number of them, as we'll see from our slide, quite a number of these textiles don't end up being used, but they end up being dumped in landfills and causing some negative impact on the environment. Yes. So I want to move on to the area of design. Quite a number of, like the ISO 14062, 2002. Number 2 actually emphasizes, also mentions about design, where they emphasize that they should be development of new products with a focus on innovative and creative aesthetic aspects. I won't read the others, but I'm just trying to highlight on design as I go towards my area of design. Now, when we are thinking about designing and we are thinking about sustainability within the area of textiles, we need to ask ourselves, question ourselves about what we're and how we're doing it, and whether we really need to do it the way we're doing it, and also how it will be used and how it will be disposed in a good and ethical way. So a number of R's that we are talking about here, we're talking about reuse, we are talking about reuse, meaning so that we don't actually use, reduce, I'll just be reuse, regift, recover, recycle. So the R's help us as designers to think along those lines, to creatively think whether we're on the right path. Due to time, I want to share, just let me. Before I come and give examples of some of the product design projects we've been involved in, allow me just to unshare this, and then I'll come back to it. I would like to share some design factors that designers need to actually pay attention to. Yes. So I always use this as a guide for designers. I hope you are. We have, whenever we're designing products, and I tell students and all the enterprise, the product designers, that this is a good guide to all the right track. We use this, I call it a nanogram that actually helps us. So the first P stands for people. The second one is resources, opposition, which is competition. I'm using the term opposition. Construction, technology, and society. With people, we really have to be sensitive to what we're doing, what we're producing. Is it going to be harmful to the people? And both, when I talk about people, it's both the internal and external human resource or the people we get involved with as we're producing our products. So we have to ask ourselves various questions so that we actually do our work in a very ethical way. Yes, and then there's the resources also, the materials we're using. Also, we have to actually pay attention to the materials we're using. Yes, and then opposition, competition, we have to be sensitive to our competitors. We should not repeat the mistakes others are making, and we have to do the right thing. So we have to know how to benchmark also in the right way. Design, this is focusing so much on aesthetics and also both aesthetics and function, making sure that whatever products we are producing are very correct. The issues of ergonomics are correct. This is also a very important factor. Use, we have to ask ourselves very many questions, including the psychological, the physiological, and the sociological factors that have to be considered while using a product, textiles. Yeah, are there any products, whether they're cultural issues, whether they're issues to do with the place it's going to be used, the ceremony, or when it will be used, all that has to be considered. It's not just an issue of the technology, it's not just an issue about the material, but other factors come to play to make sure that whatever product you're making actually fits in that particular environment that you're targeting for that person. Yes. So and then construction, we're talking about materials here. We're talking about locally available materials that will not harm the environment, and what kind of techniques can be used, or what kind of methods can be used to manipulate and come up and make sure that we have the right design that we're planning. And this also goes along with the technology, making sure that we are doing some research, finding out if there is new technology that will make our work easier and that is still also ethical and in nature. Society, this is very important. This is whereby textiles, we about the second, where textile was being blamed for unethical processes where they're employing both the young and also mistreating employees. So society has to be an area to be considered, and also product that actually is meant for that society. Yeah. By that I mean, is it appropriate? It's the product that's going to work in that society. So we have to understand the people we're doing it for. We have to make sure the product does not harm the environment, does not harm the nature, animals, and all that. So ethical process. Okay, thank you. Yeah, but I said my minute's over. I can't. Hello. Hello. I just wanted to go back to show the examples of some of the products that some of the products we've been working with the students in a project. If there's time.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'll just be fast. This is still an ongoing project that was being done in collaboration with the University of Nairobi. We're producing fashion accessories, sustainable fashion, production of handmade fashion accessories, where we are actually trying of the waste, making sure that waste is not waste, but designers adding value. So we should not never look at the offcuts and all these textiles that is being dumped as waste, but somehow we should start rethinking and find ways of reusing them to create new products. These are just a few products the students made, fashion accessories. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thanks Dr. Don for showing us that it's possible. And indeed, we must design out waste. And waste is a resource that's just in the wrong place. And when we think about textile, a lot of us, when you wear an outfit or when you want to feel good, you go and buy a new outfit. But have you rethought? And that's an aspect of the rethinking. But then also, what can you do with existing materials that we have? And from a Kenyan perspective, we have a lot of resource. But then as we push on into using these different resources or reusing these different resources, what is the impact of that on the environment? I missed out on saying that at MDF Training Consultancy, we are an advisory organization doing different aspects around also circularity, which is how we are in and hosting this meeting. We've been running a circular economy project in Mombasa and supporting young people around coming up with innovative solutions around the circular economy space. Over and above that, we support innovation and we also do business development services. And we do this, we've done this for the last 38 years, in Kenya for 7 years and across the world for 38 years. Do check out our website at www.mdf.nl. Now, the professors have given us a bit of context. At the beginning, a bit of theory. At the beginning, we did say who's in the room. There are spinners, there are people who are interested in using waste or fabric into as a good resource. We also have people who are combing out the fiber, who've come out with maybe from mushroom or from bananas or from whatever it is. Now, I'd like to ask if there are any questions from a theoretical perspective that we would want to ask the professor and Daktari. This is your opportunity now. I'll give it 30 seconds. Please put it on the chat box. And if you, great. Ria, Anna, please go ahead. Let me unmute you. Please go ahead with your question.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I was wondering if there has been any assessment on the scalability of the regenerative textiles. Just to give you a bit of background, I've developed a textile under my fashion brand Lila Bear that is rain-fed East African cotton. it's hand loomed, and it's dyed with agricultural waste and botanicals. So by the doctor and professor's definitions, I'm quite proud of, you know, we've managed to do it on all counts. And in exploring, you know, the more opportunities to introduce different textiles into my brand of a regenerative nature, have any of these, the mushroom or banana, anything been deemed scalable for businesses such as mine?
Lisa, should I go or I wait for more questions?
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
And it's easy.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're glad to hear that there are people that are working on regenerative material. You'll note that I'm using the word material, and textiles are not fibers because we feel there are more. One that we have managed to go full scale is the natural dyes. Rivertex can produce a fabric that is dyed by natural dyes 100%. So Tami dye is already ready for the market, and that can be done. And that is by Rivertex, which is owned by Moi University. I invited somebody from Alisam, who is based in Kisumu. He deals with natural dyes. He's also been able to go full scale, and he can sell indigo dyes. He grows the plants in Kisumu, and he can sell indigo dyes. These are also natural dyes. We also have Tosheka, who are based in Makueni. They will also sell to you dyes. Now, all these that I've mentioned, you'll note they are all in natural dyes. They are at different stages, and we're still doing more research to see whether we can bring them to a more packable level. We are trying to see whether we can crystallize them. That means we turn them into powder, but still at this level, we can still be able to use them. In the area of fibers, the one that we can quickly talk about is silk. Silk, we've gone a full scale, and on top of that list again is Tosheka Textiles, and they can sell you silk and also Alsam. And we also have others that are working in that line. Banana fiber, we are doing also very well. Kindly note, we are still at the mat level. We've not been able to go to spin it to the final level where we can make a garment, but we can make something like a mat, something like a carpet at the banana level. Even there's somebody who has developed some human hair using banana. It is being done in Kenya and also in Uganda. So those are some of the areas whereby we feel we are breaking the ceiling, and we'll continue working on other areas as we find resources and as opportunity arise. We'll be glad to, let's say, connect with you and see if there are any synergies that exist between what you are doing and what we are doing, and see how we can work together to upscale any of the areas that you are comfortable about. Unfortunately, mushroom fiber is very much high technical. We have a few patents here and there, but not owned by Moi University. So we don't have much on mushroom, but I thought I will bring it out so that people may know it is something that is doable. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Prof, for that elaborate answer. Ria, I hope that answers your question, but we will also put in the details of the professor, and also do feel to reach out to him individually on the chat box for further information. On the Intex website, I also did notice that they have really good resource in regards to how you can develop a business case and around sustainability and for textile. So if you also within the room and at the inception, that's also a good resource. Any other question, Laura, in our chat box? Do we have? I'll give it another 10 seconds and maybe, all right, great. Is the aim to serve the international market? Perhaps, Sharifa, you could just explain more. What do you mean? Or local? Do feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, just quickly, I guess from my perspective, I'm in Belgium. I'm with Fashion Revolution Belgium, and so we connect a lot with different organizations and universities, academia. So I guess for us listening, it's what do you need, or the connection? Do you want to connect with the network here in Belgium, for example, or Europe, or is it the fact that you're building for the market, local market? So I guess, what do you need from me in Belgium? Do you need contacts from like the different platforms, the textile platforms, or do you guys know about those platforms? Or do you need, what do you need from us?
Right. Thanks, Sharifa. Indeed, one is the idea of also, I mean, the webinar was to connect. So we would need contacts for that kind of market, but also the different linkages also here where we would like to produce for the local, but also international. And also Lisa will be able then to highlight a bit more about that in her session. So please do stay on. But thank you for that comment. I do see Juliet.
Can I add something?
Oh, yes. And Prof, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I hope I won't take a lot of time. Number one, in the Intex project, we have already selected 10 companies that we are training, but we are still open and we can provide the training. If we accept you, we will provide it free of charge. We are really interested in companies that are likely to show something called multiple effect. We feel that if you're able to train you and then you will affect other people, whether they be 2, 5, or 10, or even 100, we will be interested in you. That's number one. Number two, about Belgium, the project is funded by EU, so we are very much interested to see whether we can have any connection in the EU. In the EU, I've just in February I was in France where I was able to attend OECD meeting. And we keep on trying to look for opportunities. For example, there's a company called Upsetting Resources based in Kenya that is collecting post-industrial waste from EPZ, and they are shipping it back to Brussels. We've been trying to see, because the technology being used in Brussels to recover fiber is quite adaptable. We've been trying to see whether we can get a connection to have that work being done in Kenya instead of shipping. That far, they have shipped over 100,000 kilograms of post-consumer waste to Brussels. We are really looking for a possibility that we do it in Kenya, and then we can now ship the fiber and not that fabric. So we are open, and we are always looking for collaboration and for let's say any chance that can enable us to be able to be more circular. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask for one more question, and I do see Juliet Isika, your hand is up, and please go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I'm Juliet Isika from Kenyatta University. Mine is not more of a question. I'm coming from a fashion design perspective. I think one of the things we need to do as we look at the circular economy, regenerative textiles, is to ask ourselves, how much comes from the processes of constructing, knitting, methods of producing these textiles? What again comes, and by that I mean the kind of carbon prints we're talking about, that the amount of energy we use to process everything that we are doing, how much of this do we generate after we have this regenerative textile? So can we maybe as a consortium, as a group, look into ways of ensuring that we change the sewing, the making up? And we don't mean reinventing the wheel. When we're saying changing, is maybe adapting or adopting something relatively already existing. The project Dr. Mbura has talked about was on hand sewing skills or hand skills. We don't mean when you're using your hands, you're entirely using your hands. You can even use a treadle machine to produce, other than using something maybe consuming a lot of electricity. So let's look into ways of ensuring that we can maybe reduce the amount of carbon produced when constructing, when producing the fashion products. It's obvious that we need a new consumer group. So again, we may need to look into the consumers. I remember someone talking about, are we doing for Europe? as much as we are doing regenerative textiles, producing handmade or products that are relatively handmade, there is a cost when it comes to the consumers. So how much can we have of new consumers on board, even in Africa, so that at the end of the day, then we have this complete circular economy? Otherwise, I believe it's a good idea. Regenerative textiles is the way to go from farm to fabric, but it's important to ensure we have a new consumer group. It's important to ensure that the methods we use to produce the fashion products, the methods we use to produce the textiles, will ensure that we have a beautiful and wonderful globe for all of us, regardless of where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliet. Indeed, very important the whole value chain has to be regenerative. So thanks for putting in that comment and circular in that regard. From how the farming is done, from how we harvest, from then processing it, to then even the dyeing, and indeed, all those different aspects have to have the circularity. Thanks for that comment, Juliet. I do have a question from Zai, and he's asking, could regenerative textile in Kenya be competitive with mtumbas, and what is the price for that? Prof or Daktari?
Maybe I allow Daktari so that at least I don't seem to be overshadowing.
Okay, hi. Yes, that's a good question. Somehow, I think the country has been overwhelmed by the used the mitumba, the market, but it's never too late to start making new ways to actually curb this. Like, for example, I know in Europe, maybe I may be corrected, they have various policies, including having what they call the product passports. They have quite a number of measures that kind of keep check on what is coming in. And if and this is a global thing, this is something that the country cannot just do on its own, but we also need the support of the developing countries, the UK, where these textiles come from, because we are not generating these textiles, they're coming from out there, yet in their place, they have various measures to actually take care of the environment and take care of their enterprises. And all that waste, or what they don't need, comes to us and it floods our country with all these used textiles, and now most of them end up in the landfill. So it's issues of policy, issues of collaboration with companies, international companies, governments, so that we also have laid down rules to actually try and reduce. Even, we're not saying to stop. We can still get these textiles, yes, which are quite good, but there has to be a check so that we don't bring textiles which come in and they're never used. Yeah, somebody imports a bale. Yeah, oh, sorry. Yes, so the so all that, including also the yes, I talked about the passport, product passport, and also the various social, we can call them social responsibilities of the producers who actually bring all these textiles here and dump them here. So yes, if we start, we can start in a small way and see how it goes. Yeah, but it's overwhelming. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
All right, Dr.
Yeah.
Allow me to cut Professor, let me cut you off here because of then our time frame. We had promised that we'd be done by 12. And I do see you're sharing your screen, so I'll ask that you stop sharing your screen, because then
if you just don't mind, I thought I would just mention the person at the center.
Yes.
Is the president of Estonia, and what she's wearing is made from a mtumba. So you can see we are working very much to ensure that the mtumba remains in Europe. And ECA is Estonia Academy of Arts. So there is much on that together with the Intex project. I thought I would just share, this is in 2020, and that was the president. She is now out of office because her term, her term ran out. But that is the president wearing a cloth made from Amtumba. If you need to know more about this, she was launching a similar project in Kenya. You can contact me. Thank you.
All
I'm
right.
sorry for taking time. I stopped sharing.
No, it was really important. Thank you for bringing that in. We're well within time, I want to believe, and to allow us to segue into the next session, which is our inspiration session. And we will have those who are actually spinning or who've innovated around the space of regenerative textile come on board. And for the next session, I have Imani Collectives, and right after I will have Iona. Is Imani Collectives in the room? Please speak up so that then, Jenny?
Yes, I'm here.
Good morning, thanks.
Morning,
All right.
How are you?
Handing over to you, Imani, to just give us a highlight of what it is that you're doing from an inspiration perspective, that it is actually feasible.
Great, awesome. I have a presentation, but I think I'll just share stories because I love to story tell. So Imani Collective started back in 2011, and with the idea of asking what all of you guys are asking. Some of you are doing amazing things already too in this room. And when we were going to market to be scalable, I started looking into fabrics that, again, that we could somewhat control, but also be able to, again, have that regenerative process to it. And so that is where we stepped into weaving. We started as a tailoring program. And if you fast forward to what we do today, we in-house, we use different tailoring, scrap leather, weaving. We're now we have our ceramic department, all these different pieces. We are based in Mombasa, but we do have 3 different locations, right in Old Town, also right outside of Mtwapa, so still on the coastal region. And in Turkana, we work with different reed material, and we work with 20 women up there doing the basket weaving. But our focus and what we loved, and I believe what Lisa asked me to come on and talk about, was what we do with our spinners and with our looms. And one thing that I noticed back in 2015, 2016 is that this was an art that was obviously in kind of our older generation of in Kenya. And so I wanted to make sure that we could pass that on, but then also, again, bring it to a way that we could teach, we could provide dignified work, and we could do it at scale that made sense, and where we could change consumerism practices, which we're all very dedicated in doing. And so we started to look around, and obviously we source everything locally. We get all of our wool up in Nakuru, and we bring that down into Mombasa, where then we do all of our carding, we do all of our spinning. We have over 30 spinners in Mtwapa, and then all of that is then taken to our location in Old Town, where we're starting to navigate. I want to talk to some of you guys in this room. We're changing a lot of our dyeing process in the last couple of years too. But then we do all of our weaving in-house. So if you're ever in Old Town, I encourage you to come and visit us. We make from rugs to wall hangings to elevated home decor. But we also started a company, a sub-brand called Sukwa, and we make saddle blankets that we ship globally for horses as well. So we wanted to make sure that we could break into other areas, other client base, other consumers that are not just based in apparel, accessories, or home, but we wanted to teach other people how do you change your buying practices as well? How do you understand that too? And there's a lot of industries out there that don't know exactly how to do that and are confused to how we do that well. And so it's a joy for Imani Collective to be a model, but also to be an open book for people of how to start something, to train well, and to bring that to scale. We serve industries across the board from the US, Canada. We just opened a distribution center in the UK and also in Australia, and we ship all of our home decor across the world, and then also these unique saddle blankets to play. But one of the things that we mainly try to focus in within our artisans and within partnership is making sure that we're always getting better. And so there's this 5 P's of sustainability that I really try to focus on. And some of you have already mentioned this, right? Like we care about our people. We need to know our product and our profit from that. We need to know our purpose and why we're doing that. We need to know obviously how we're affecting the planet, but then partnerships is such a key. So I'm so grateful for this forum to be put together, because we are only better when we're partnering together, when we're listening to one another, and when we're growing. So that's a little bit about Imani. I can share some pictures if you guys want. We now serve over 170 artisans and staff within our collective. And we love everything we do. We truly care about our artisans. My biggest ethos that I stand firm on is I don't pay piecework for our team, but they get monthly consistent salary jobs. And so we really want to come holistically around our artisans, care for them, and then them also be a part of the design process as well. So it is our main team is all in Kenya and continuing to grow. And it's a joy to see them do that together. So that's a little bit about us.
Thank you, Jenny. Indeed, really good that you did a story. From an African perspective, we take up more knowledge when it's a story format. So, and great work that you're doing. I've visited your shop down at the what do you call it? In Old Town. So yeah,
in Old Town.
Great work. Yeah. All righty. Thank you, Jenny. And looking forward to, if you do want to partner, Jenny, please do share your contact on the chat. And we'll also have all this contacts or details or links to the websites of the different partners on the website regenerative-textile-kenya.com. Jenny has been kind enough to even share her email address. All right. We'll go into the next inspiration moment. We have Iona Macri. Iona, are you in the room? Oh, great. Iona is a creative director at Kiko Romeo, and I will allow her to then give an inspiration of what she is doing within the regenerative textile context. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Good morning, everybody. And thank you for having me at this brilliant session. It is definitely very necessary. We do need to kind of work together and come together in the space of regenerative textiles. So just to give you a bit of background, Kiko Romeo is a fashion brand based in Kenya. It was founded in '96 by my mum, Anne McGrath, and I stepped into the business in 2018 and took over the creative director role. My passion has really been, and I think I found that through working and just through my processes in university, that textiles is something that I find I'm very passionate about. And we were able to conduct a sort of research project in 2020, looking at the space for regenerative and alternative fibers in textile use across Kenya. And just to say, there's just so many possibilities of what can be turned into textiles and into sort of wearable garments as well, because I think in looking at regenerative textiles, there's the differentiation between what can be worn and also what can be good for sort of home use, apparel, and home decor and the sort. So just a bit of background into Kiko Romeo and our use of textiles. So from the beginning, we've really been working with a lot of handmade, hand-woven, hand-spun fabrics from across Kenya and greatly across Africa. But working across Kenya, we've been using a lot of hand-woven, hand-spun cottons, rain-fed cottons, but also kind of experimented into the silk production as well, beautiful silk that's being produced. And now increasingly, we've sort of, as I stepped in, the knowledge that I have into the space, we started looking into the use of textiles from sort of uses that we would never really think were able to sort of make textiles. So orange peels, milk protein, sugarcane, all of these waste products from the agricultural industry are actually very apt for creating beautiful textiles. So my process in that was I need to understand how these fabrics work in order to understand how to better produce them in our localities, and also how the body reacts with them, how you feel. A lot of them have very medicinal properties as well. And I think it's also important to note that when you wear clothes, they do invoke different emotions in you. And natural fibers have been proven time and time again scientifically to make people feel happier and feel better. And so I think just even looking at sort of general wellness of populations, moving towards natural fibers and all of the sort is actually very, very beneficial. But at Kikiromea, we've been using fabrics that are made from orange peel, as I said, sugarcane, rose petal. And then more recently, we've been looking to sort of innovate within the space of what is available here and the sort of the skills and technology that we have here. So a lot more is hand done and using more like physical mechanical processes as opposed to technological innovations at the moment. But I think there is really scope to kind of grow in that space. So we've been looking at the use of sisal and sort of turning that into more wearable textile. So I'm happy to say that we've really made a lot of headway on that, and we'll soon hopefully be sharing sort of the findings of the processes and the textiles that we've been able to create with everybody. But it's been a really great process. And in doing so, looking into sort of our traditional knowledge systems around what plants that we may not know are possible to kind of extract fibers from that exist. But then again, going into the whole sort of processes of natural dyeing and all of that. So I think for me, it's been a really, really great process. And I'm really excited to continue on this journey and I'll put my email in the chat if anybody has any questions or would like to partner. It would be really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Iona, and indeed for just highlighting some of the work that you're doing. I want to edge in here and say, I mean, as from an African perspective and Kenyan perspective, there's so much natural fiber or natural things that we do have that can contribute into this whole conversation and that the speakers are talking about from a sustainability, business sustainability perspective, from a feel good, but also health perspective, from how we manage our waste or how waste can be used as a resource within this ecosystem, and then also how decent work contributes into the circular economy or the regenerative textile conversation. So interesting conversation as well on the chat. So I like to see Juliet's comments. But to tie up this from even a coastal Kenyan culture heritage perspective, we have our own Lisa Kibutu, who's from BAOSSENCE, and she will be then, I'm sorry, I keep massacring the name, and who will then tie this up and then speak about, okay, then what next after from all these different partnerships of where, I mean, people that we're bringing together, what then happens after that? So I will hand over to my friend, Lisa. My apologies. Let me get the video on.
So shall I start?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me? Audible? Am I?
Give us 1 minute, just 1 minute. That's, you can hear?
Yeah. Yeah. So good morning, my fellow regenerates. So this is a word that I learned from Mark Barash, who's one of the godfathers of regeneration. And it's regenerates is an endearing term that really describes regenerative practitioners. And so as you introduced, I'm Lisa Kibutu. Thank you all so much. I know I've been harassing you to get online, and I'm so glad all of you guys. Jenny, thank you so much for taking the time. Iona, Professors Josephat and Adon, thank you so much for making this kind of a dream come true for me. So I'm Lisa Kibutu, I'm the founder of BAOSSENCE, which is a Baobab-based wellness brand, and the Swahili Coast Culture, which is a cultural enterprise. And now I created Reface, which is the Regenerative Fashion Collective Exchange that is actually powering this innovation process that supports the crop to closet to compost, is a see-through textile value chain to establish a regenerative textile industry in Africa, starting with the Kenya coast, of course, and also to establish a regenerative certified standard. So we will get into that a little bit later. But it was the manifesto for regenerative fashion that actually inspired the creation of Reface. As you heard, it's the Regenerative Fashion Collective Exchange. And I was inspired actually by their commitment, by the commitment of the 15 members of the SMI Fashion Task Force to change the path of, right? So fashion right now is no longer in fashion. So how do we redefine that stuttering? And that's the initiative that Reface has taken, right? So regenerative fashion is a circular bio-based, is a circular bio-based that holistically addresses climate biodiversity crisis while generating equitable and inclusive prosperity along its value chain. At the same time, it sets out to support local and indigenous communities responsible for creating regenerative landscapes. Now, regenerative landscapes is the foundation beneath all of it, all regenerative industries, but in particular right now, that in this context, it's regenerative fashion industry. And across our 3,000 kilometers of East African coast is the Swahili coast. And the Swahilis have been custodians of the regenerative landscape for millennia before the terroristic invasion of the Portuguese, and which happened in the 16th century. And at that time, the Swahili were cultivating indigenous cotton and silk that was brought about the last century BC by the Chinese. And they actually also bought it. So it grew very well here. As we know, mulberry grows very well on the Kenya coast. You see them wild right now in the Malindi Kilifi area. And they exported this. They not only cultivated it, they exported it within the 3,000 kilometers of coast and around the triangular trade, Indonesia, and to the Arab countries. So when we speak about the restoration of cultural heritage, you cannot ignore the dispossession of it. So when the Swahilis were dispossessed of their cultural heritage, which was the agricultural, actually the regenerative agricultural practices that they were already practicing at the time, which means their food culture was affected because their land, which is still in dispute to date, was dispossessed of them. So because of their geographical location, let's say, they were the earliest agricultural practitioners in East Africa. So the other tribes within the continent, what we call Bara, were mostly nomadic. So they were not commercially doing any commercial practices in agriculture. So the Swahilis were the only ones practicing exporting cashew nuts, tobacco, rice. Even they cultivated that like in a wide way, and their silk and their cotton. So when the Portuguese came here, they found textile mills all over the Kilifi area. So, and that land to date has not been recultivated since the independence of this country when the coast became a part of Kenya. I think most of us, I don't know if you're familiar, that the coast only became a part of Kenya in 1963. So for me, it is time that the Kenya coast restitutes its regenerative textile cultural heritage by establishing an African certification standard, which will be only a first and very necessary step in restoring agency on our own products and also restoring cultural heritage to the coastal people. That's it.
Thank you, Lisa. Well summarized and bringing it together why we're actually doing this in the coast. From a heritage perspective, from a cultural perspective, from also the economic perspective of the coastal region. I'm going to ask, we have 10 more minutes into this webinar, but I will ask that we do, if you could kindly give us 5 to 10 more of your minutes, just to get into the call to action and what it is that follows after this. So we've had the theory, we've had the context around it from the Daktari, but also we've had even from then Imani collectives, and also in terms of the practice from Iona, but then linking that up to the culture and heritage. And of course, policy has to come into place. So the idea is that we create this platform and a place where we can engage, but then also to push forward in regards to certification of regenerative fiber from a Kenyan perspective, an African perspective. So build that up, and within it as well, what innovation can come out of it, what business support services are required, or what policy and conversations needs to be had, so that then we actually push the agenda for Kenya. So I did hear we had we had spinners, we had those practicing, so we had people within also the innovation space. I did see a hub Bamburi workshop. I did see also someone in the manufacturing, but I seem to miss out on where the people who are actually going to, maybe some of the people who are going to farm some of the things that we do need from organic dyes. I'm not sure I saw a farmer, so that would be really good to see that. But so that I don't miss out on anyone, I'm going to ask my colleague Laura to share a form on the chat box, and it's in twofold. If you're in the manufacturing, if you're in the agriculture, or if you're a participant or who is interested in terms of demonstrating that you have gotten a fiber or a textile out of regenerated fiber, please go on to either of the forms. So there's one for the manufacturers. So Laura, please highlight. The first one is on manufacturing. For manufacturers or practitioners, let me put it that way. And then the second form is anyone who's created a fiber, a textile from regenerative fiber. Are my instructions or my guidance clear? If you're interested into continuing the conversation and being part of the conversation, there's two forms. Those in the manufacturing, research, or collaborators, there's a form on the chat box. Please express your interest to continue the conversation. The other form is for anyone who's developed, who already has a fiber that's become a textile. All right. All right, as we do that, please, if you do have any questions, do indicate them on the chat box. Now, you can fill in the form right now, which would be very well appreciated, or you could do it later. But even as you do that, I'll also ask that just as we wrap this up, that we do another Mentimeter just to shake up a bit of our Zoom focus. All right, I'll ask my colleague to run the Mentimeter. Once again, if you're on your screen or on the computer, Laura, you could also share it on the chat box, the code, the link. But you could also just go to your phone. Type in the same code. So it's www.menti.com. Thank you, Wagare. All right, Wagare, don't leave before you then tell us how you'd like to be engaged. So please log into your Menti and type in the code above. I don't see anyone in the room because I'm able to see that. Technology will not allow you to hide. Laura, do I have people in the room? No? Okay, great. You could appease the facilitator and have at least one person in the room. If not, do type it on the chat box. Oh, great. I have one answer, one person and one answer. I like it. Okay. I'd like to participate in the webinars like this, especially to connect with others in the sector. Please, can we organize more? It's so important for us to hear from others, what others are doing. All right, thank you. Okay. Perhaps you are also in the space, and what kind of support would you require? Great, include discussion on research behind the regenerative materials and the technology involved. Excellent feedback. Okay, I have 4 people in the research, great. And to learn the process of how to regenerate the textiles that already exist. Great feedback. Okay. I'll ask Laura if on the forms we have expression of interest. All right, connect with the value chain members for collaborations and partnerships to make regenerative textiles at scale. I like that, thank you. Okay, thank you for the amazing session. I'd like to contribute pieces of work, e.g. articles, journals, and films. Great. Given that I am warned by my colleagues that we are 5 minutes into the next, to wrap this up, we will have another session for our webinar next month. It's been a pleasure, utmost pleasure to host this webinar, but to have each and every one of you on a Tuesday, 45 participants at one point, log in and contribute to this conversation. As indicated, there are different resource webs or aspects from this. Please go to our website, www.regenerativetextile-kenya.com. I will also put my email address on the chat box. And to follow up on this, we will also be sending in terms of the next webinar series and what has come out of this conversation to each and every one of you. Thank you to our partner, JKP, for hosting us. We are seated at their facilities here in Mombasa. Wherever it is that you are, I want to extend a warm thank you to each one of you. Without further ado, at exactly 12, I do say that this webinar is now officially closed, but please do go on to the 2 forms that we've sent out so that we know how to engage with you after this webinar. Thank you very much. A round of applause to each one of you. Thank you. Feel free to leave at pleasure. I will ask Laura to play. I will play a video actually on the Mutumba industry as you log out, what it has done to our Kenyan ecosystem. Thank you.
This is Dandora Dump Site, East Africa's largest landfill and the final destination for much of the world's fashion waste. The fashion industry is producing more clothes than ever before, driven by cheap plastic fibers like polyester. Europeans throw out about 5.8 million tons of textiles per year, around 11 kilograms per person. Some of it is donated to charities or sent to be recycled. But have you ever wondered what happens to these clothes? And is the trade of used clothes really giving fashion a second chance, or just pushing the problem elsewhere? To answer these questions, the Changing Markets Foundation went on the ground to unravel the trade of used clothing in Kenya, where we sought to understand the impacts on the environment and local communities and see firsthand how used clothing ends up as textile waste, polluting the global south. As fashion production has skyrocketed in high-income countries, they have increasingly relied on exporting used clothing to relieve pressure on their overburdened systems. In fact, over 900 in the country. Upon arrival in Mombasa Freight Port by container ship from exporters across the world, including JMP Wilcox, Savor Textiles, Cookstown, and Baltic Textile Trading, the clothing bales are transferred to warehouses known as godowns situated adjacent to the larger Mitumba markets. These bales, containing around 200 items, each of a known condition or quality, are sold on by brokers to market traders for around 6,000 to 10,000 Kenyan shillings or 50 to 80 euros. Only at the Mitumba markets are the bales finally opened. Here, traders will find out if their gamble has paid off and if they can turn a profit on these used clothes. Traders we interviewed estimated that between 20 and 50% of a bale will be unsellable, either damaged, stained, too big, or culturally inappropriate.
You can open a bale and you find they are almost all of them taitais at 10. We sell at 10 shillings.
Some have been found covered in vomit, animal hair and stains, or include old uniforms from Tesco and McDonald's with name badges still attached. This indicates that sorting of clothing in the export countries is failing to remove waste before export and is instead shipped abroad, where it becomes someone else's problem.
Lakini shida ya nguo sasa hivi, nguo zinakuja zikiwa chafu, sio nzuri sana. Kwa mfano hii ya UK iko na stain, haifai kabisa, mtu anunui. Pia hii hapa ni kampuni ya Morocco. Si nzuri, si chafu sana, si nzuri sana, but ina waste kwa bale. Haya, ina masteni, ina mashimo. Unaiona imetoboka? Unaiona? Imetoboka, ina mashimo na ina stain. Hii ni waste.
Even for clothes that are not damaged, there is a concerning trend of declining quality. And much of the poor quality clothing was found to be synthetic.
The quality of mitumba is just getting worse. Yes, day after day.
Kuna zile tunapata faida, lakini mingi tunapata hasara juu zile nguo mingi ndio inakuwaga baya kushinda zile mzuri. Sasa unaona hata ukiuza zile mzuri, unauza kidogo, zile baya haiwezi letoa kitu. Unaona?
Among the bales are recognizable European and international brands, including New Look, Old Navy, Nike, H&M, Gap, and Nine West, many of which make green claims about their clothing. Mitumba that isn't bought or is damaged is sold to traders of fagia, the lowest grade of used clothes. Fagia traders can expect to make as little as 70 shillings or 50 euro cents per kilo of fagia.
Ni hasara kwetu kwanza kabisa. Unauza ndambagi hizi ndio maana unaona tunachoma hizi tunatupa. Asante.
While fagia sellers will try to sell items as cut price clothing, our investigation found that most are destined for rags, burnt as fuel, or simply dumped.
Kama hii inaitwa polyester. Sasa hiwezi baleka na mtu. Huwezi baleka hata kidogo. Kama hizi ndio zinatusumbua sisi. Kama hii aziera. Hii tena hii material yake wameleta mbaya. Hii ukivuruta hivi inatararuka.
Kama hizi za nylon tunaziuza kwa bei ya chini kabisa, na kama haziendi tunauzia watu wa kuchoma njugu watumia kama kuni.
Near to the fagia market, scraps of clothing and even whole items, much of which were made from plastic fibers, were being burnt in an open fire over which people were cooking peanuts, some of whom complained of issues with toxic smoke inhalation. Here, the team found brands such as George at Asda and M&S, with one item encouraging the owner to recycle with Oxfam. After any final use is found for the clothing, there's nowhere else for it to go but being dumped or discarded. Areas around the markets are saturated with textile waste. At Gikomba Market, the banks of the Nairobi River are deeply embedded with old clothing and plastic bale ties.
The waste is getting worse because there's a lot of clothes coming in now, and so that